the person who gave us a sense of safety and security is the one to take it away. The one you run to when other people are causing harm is the person causing the harm. And the way it works is the more we trusted and the more we depend on that person, the deeper the betrayal.
You are listening to Amplify Your Success Podcast, episode 484. And today, let's look at betrayal and how it may be impacting your growth without realizing it. You ready for this? Let's get started. Welcome to the Amplify Your Success Podcast. Get ready to ramp up your revenue, amplify your impact, and make your mark in the world. This is the show for experts, thought leaders, and service professionals who want to shatter their limits and achieve that next level. You're going to find out from other experts and influencers how they made it. Now, let's get amplified. Hey there, inspired entrepreneurs and business leaders. It's your host, Melanie Benson. And today we are exploring betrayal. This episode is such a powerful exploration of what happens when you get stuck in the energy of feeling betrayed. And betrayal can kick in from a work relationship, a team member, a romantic partner. I mean, it can really come from anywhere. And I am no stranger to the feelings of betrayal. And so I share a little bit about my experience with it. But our guest today is an expert in the field of betrayal. I love this conversation so much. First of all, this is a really beautiful collaboration partner. She was featured as one of the podcast hosts at Visibility Velocity last week. But it's just really exquisite to see somebody really stand in their wound and turn that wound into something that can profoundly impact the world and the clients who need it. I mean, she's just such an amazing person. I love this conversation so much. And the invitation for you is, as you're listening into this, really sit with and look at, like, is there places or pockets where I maybe have been filtering through the lens of a betrayal that's unhealed? And then secondly, I want you to look at this as, wow, like, look what can happen when you really own your authority and you step into amplifying the reach of your work in the world. And that's what our guest has done. And if this is something you know it's time to do, I'm going to invite you to download my free 7-step framework to becoming unignorable. And this is really my roadmap to how I help my clients go through the visibility to profit diagnostic, but also like really own their authority and their expertise in a way that allows other people to recognize why you. So if you don't have that yet, head over to melaniebenson.com/framework and download it. It's my gift to you today. Now, let's get into today's episode. Welcome back, Amplifiers. Well, I have a profound and transformational guest joining us today. I'm very excited to bring our guest. We're talking about something that's often unhealed, unseen, unspoken, and it's the energy of an unhealed betrayal and how it is oftentimes sabotaging us in our business every day. So let me introduce you to my friend, Debi Silber. Dr. Debi Silber is the founder and CEO of the PBT, Post-Betrayal Transformation Institute, and National Forgiveness Day. She's an award-winning speaker, 2-time #1 international best-selling author, and she hosts a podcast from Betrayal to Breakthrough, which ranks in the top 1.5% globally. And she is just so profound. She equips practitioners globally with her evidence-based framework so they can deliver exponentially better results with their existing clients who are experiencing some form of stuckness around betrayal. And oh my gosh, I could talk about her accolades forever. She's done TEDx talks. She's been on Fox, CBS, The Dr. Oz Show, and now she's here on Amplify Your Success. Welcome, Debi.
Oh, thank you. Looking forward to this conversation, my friend.
Me too. And I'm also equally jazzed because I think our audience is going to hear this before the Visibility Velocity event. You're one of the show hosts at the podcast pitch panel at Visibility Velocity. So more happy, got some balloons going off and fireworks. Very, very blessed to have you.
Oh,
Well, you and I stumbled into a conversation not too long ago about betrayal.
mhm.
And, betrayal shows up in a lot of different places in our lives. I think everybody in some way, shape, or form has felt a betrayal. But in particular, we want to talk today about the impact of an unhealed betrayal in our business.
Mhm.
And I just want to kind of give some context to what that might look like, how that might play out for someone. And then, there's lots of different ways betrayals can be impacting in our business, but how do we see that playing out for someone who's a business owner?
Oh, it shows up everywhere in our work, in our health, in our relationships. And here's the thing, we do our best to say, you know what, it happened outside of the workplace. I'm going to keep it outside of the workplace. Well, that's impossible. It's impossible because what happens is there's such a shattering of trust. There's a shattering of the self, of you're feeling rejection, abandonment, belonging, confidence, worthiness, trust. Like, how do you bring your best when this is what you're working with? If I tell you how many people have said to me, Dr. Debi, I'm a salesperson, I can't hold it together, I can't make a sale, or I have to put myself out there, but I've been emotionally eating because I'm so upset and so sad, I don't feel comfortable promoting myself. Or how do I trust that boss, that coworker, that collaborative partner? The person I trusted the most proved untrustworthy. It shows up everywhere.
Yeah, it does. And I think sometimes, and I don't know if you see this, I just want to give a little context to where this shows up for people before we dig into your research study, which I am fascinated by. But sometimes I think we don't realize the deep impact these experiences have on us until the symptoms of that unhealed betrayal start to surface. And I'll share just a little bit about one of mine. And I mean, I've had several. I've been in business for like 25 years, and I've had personal ones that kind of
Mm-hmm.
filtered into my business. And I've had it where a business, and family, and all of it is like servicing at the same time. Talk about trying to keep it together, a little bit of a perfect storm there. But for me, I know one of the things that happened was I had a betrayal from someone really close to me in my business. And I tried to gaslight myself and went, ah, it happens. And then that betrayal had several layers where someone else tried to out me
Mm-hmm.
publicly about it. And I was like, what are we outing me? But they created some vulnerability and a shame around it. And I thought the depth of that betrayal for me went so deep.
Mm-hmm.
And then I layered on top of it the whatever, just get over it, move on. And I
Yeah.
know you've probably got something to say about that. And I know our listeners are probably starting to think of the places where maybe they felt betrayed by someone, a coach, a client, a colleague, a virtual assistant. Had a few of those that I felt betrayed by,
Mm-hmm.
a partner, right? Like the list can go on and on and on.
Yeah. It's one of the things that makes betrayal so unique as far as what kind of trauma it is. And, people say trauma is trauma. No, it's not. Betrayal is a very different type of trauma that needs a very different way to heal. But just even what you said, like, think about it. Let's say you lose someone you love. People rally, they're coming along just to help you however they can. But with betrayal, sometimes we're struggling and suffering in silence because we're looking at it saying, wait a second, did I do something wrong here? Am I at fault? Could I have been more, better, whatever? And then sometimes we're even covering for the betrayer. I see this a lot in relational and partner betrayals, where that person is so well loved by the friends, the community, the whatever. So the person who's been betrayed struggles and suffers in silence. So think about it. Your whole world implodes no matter what type of betrayal it is. And then it's like a random Tuesday, and you're still supposed to do your work, take care of your kids or your elderly parents, or do the things. And it's not like we take that time to realize, oh my gosh, this is a trauma and it needs to be healed. It's like you break your leg and it's okay, now run that marathon. We can't.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you don't realize the impact it's having on
Mhm.
you, and I know this is what you want to talk about today, it's very easy to get paralyzed, to get stuck,
Mm.
to lose your self-confidence. I think I lost a lot of my self-confidence when I went through the first of many. And I do think they collect and compound on each other when they're not healed. So I can't wait to dig into this with you. And, as you're listening in, if you are recognizing that you've had some betrayal, and maybe it's not been healed and you start to recognize like, oh, I might be in one of these patterns, just know you're not alone. And that's why I'm so excited to bring Dr. Debi to the show today. Well, I'm imagining that you had a moment in your life when you realized that betrayal was something that you needed to explore deeper. Do you want to share maybe a little bit about what the catalyst was for you to, okay, I'm going to be all about healing betrayal now?
You don't think I just like the topic? No.
Yeah, I'm thinking there was something deeper that transpired. I don't know.
You don't study something like betrayal unless you have to.
Yeah.
I'm in business 34 years, health, mindset, personal development. I had a really painful betrayal from my family. I thought I did all I needed to do to heal from that. And then it happened a few years later. This time it was my husband. Anybody who's been through it, you're shocked, you're blindsided, you're devastated. So that was the deal breaker. Got him out of the house and looked at the two experiences, thinking, okay, what's similar to these two? Me, of course, but what else? And I realized I never really took my needs seriously. It was always about everybody else. And usually, to help myself through something, I would find a book, a coach, a mentor to help me heal. Well, there wasn't anything. And for me, this was so big that I needed to sort of learn my way out of it so big. So here it was, 4 kids, 6 dogs, a thriving practice, and I enroll in a PhD program. Like, I didn't know how I was going to manage it. I didn't know how I was going to pay for it. I hadn't been in school in like 30 years, but I felt so intuitively called, and I entered into this program, and then it was time to do a study. So I studied betrayal, and honestly, it was truthfully just to help myself heal so I could be better for my kids and help my clients. Well, that study led to 3 discoveries, which changed my health, my work, my family, my life.
Yeah, let's dig into those. I got a couple follow-up questions, but we just kind of created a nice little segue into those
Yeah, sure.
those discoveries.
Yeah, so the first one was that betrayal is, in fact, a different type of trauma that needs a different way to heal. I thought so. Like, I had been through death of a loved one, I'd been through disease, and I was like, betrayal feels different. I didn't want to assume it was the same for all my study participants. So I asked them, if you've been through other traumas, does betrayal feel different for you? Unanimously, they said it's so different. Like, think about it: rejection, abandonment, belonging, confidence, worthiness, trust. They're shattered. Like, when you lose someone you love, you look back on the relationship, you remember the good times. With betrayal, you look back and you're like, wait a second, what? When I was thinking this is what was happening. The whole relationship comes into question. Trust is totally shattered. Your whole sense of reality has been completely disrupted. And that's why it's a different type of trauma that needs a different way to heal. So the most well-meaning coaches and practitioners and therapists are treating it like other traumas, and you'll know you're not healed. Number one, if it's a repeat betrayal, classic sign it's not healed. If you have symptoms of post-betrayal syndrome, that's the second discovery, classic sign it's not healed. And if you're stuck, particularly in stage 3 out of the 5 stages, classic sign you're not healed. And I'm happy to go through the other discoveries if you want to hear them.
Yeah, go for it. I'm enraptured by it.
Because
Not because it's, I mean, of course I adore you, but I think that there's some depth to betrayal that people misunderstand.
yeah,
And I think this is such a great opportunity, especially, I didn't know if I wanted to bring this up or not, but we're dealing with collective level experiences of betrayal in our world right now. We'll stop there. But I
mm,
think people know what we're talking about. And I think whether it's somebody intimate to you or there's this collective experience of feeling betrayed or somebody who's kind of distant from you but feeling betrayed, it has a very deep impact depending on how you process it and what you do with that feeling.
you're so right. And here's the thing with betrayal too. This is the person who gave us a sense of safety and security is the one to take it away. The one you run to when other people are causing harm is the person causing the harm. And the way it works is the more we trusted and the more we depend on that person, the deeper the betrayal. So, for example, a child who's totally dependent on their parent and the parent does something awful, that's going to have a different impact than your coworker taking credit for your idea, right? Still betrayals, different level of cleanup. And then as far as collective betrayal, so here's where, again, we put our trust in something other than us. So it's really a call for self-trust that has to be rebuilt. And before I get into this, the second and third discovery, this is another thing I see all the time. Again, well-meaning coaches and therapists where trust is shattered. So they say, okay, let's start with low stakes, learn how to trust, in something that isn't that big of a deal. But what happens is when trust is shattered, this is what's terrifying about betrayal. We have our own measuring system to decide if someone is trustworthy. Like when I see you do these things or say these things consistently over time, I deem you trustworthy, right? And then that person betrays us. So now we're terrified because we say my whole system for discernment is fundamentally flawed. So it's not even like the outside thing is so scary. Internally, it's terrifying because now I can't even trust myself. How do I know who's trustworthy? So trusting in someone other than us, that's the last place we need to be looking. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. And well-meaning guidance can often reinforce and deepen the sense of betrayal.
I see it all the time. We used to have so many people coming into the PBT Institute with therapy trauma. Again, well-meaning, well-intentioned therapists. But what happens is that person is feeling heard and validated and understood. Now, early on, it really serves a purpose. In a particular stage, it is crazy glue and reinforces the stuckness. But they don't know that. But when you understand the stage, you're like, oh, now I see. Now the most well-meaning practitioners with their great tools used at the right times, that person transforms. So happy to go through that too. But you want me to get into the second?
Yeah, let's go into the second discovery you made.
So the second discovery was that there's actually this collection of symptoms, physical, mental, and emotional, so common to betrayal. It's now known as post-betrayal syndrome. And we've tested over 100,000 people to see to what extent they're struggling. And what's so interesting, first of all, is we've all heard time heals all wounds, right? I have the proof that when it comes to betrayal, that's not true. There's a question on the assessment that says, is there anything else you'd like to share? And people write things like, my betrayal happened 35 years ago. I'll never trust again. My betrayal happened 40 years ago. I could still feel the hate. My betrayal happened 10 years ago. Feels like it happened yesterday. So we know we can't count on time. We can't even count on a new relationship to heal it. Until and unless we intentionally and deliberately heal it, it will follow us around in our work, our health, our relationships. So I know for our focus here, we're focused on relationships. I want to just share with you just a couple of things like how this shows up at work. Ready? So now imagine 84% out of 100,000 plus people, 84% of them have an inability to trust. So when you think about that, impaired team collaboration, resistance to feedback, increased conflict and misunderstandings, right? 88%, this is out of 100,000 people, struggled with extreme sadness. So think about this in your workday. Reduced motivation and engagement, withdrawal from colleagues, impact on creativity and problem solving. So let's say you're an entrepreneur, you need to be creative. That part of you is shunted because you're sad. Let's see, 78% are overwhelmed, increased mistakes and errors. I was laughing about some of the mistakes I made with you before we hit record, right? Missed deadlines, increased risk of burnout. So now imagine you're in business, some of these mistakes are costly. Or if your team, let's say you have members of your team who are struggling with betrayal and they're constantly making mistakes. Do you see? Or classic, let's say you're the team leader and you can't delegate. Why? Trust was shattered. You don't feel safe delegating. Right? Or your team seems disengaged or burned out. These are all signs of betrayal. So what we typically do is we'll say something like let's say it's a bigger company and they say, we're gonna put you in therapy, and they pay for it and all the things, and that's actually reinforcing that stuckness. And if people don't know that it's a betrayal, there's really no healing right there. That's where the healthcare costs and the low productivity, like all of that's happening. And meanwhile, it was a betrayal at the root of it.
Yeah. Can I add one thing to that I'm witnessing inside my community right now? You and I are in several communities together. Yeah. And one of the things I see inside my Rising Tide Collective is because it's very focused on collaboration. And one of the places where I think there is like I don't know if there's a term for this, but when it's a betrayal, but people don't really know how to name it a betrayal. Mm-hmm. So they just feel like bitter or disappointed or frustrated by something. Yeah. And they just reject it wholeheartedly. And here I'm watching, not necessarily people in my community, but people who are considering collaborations, and they're rejecting these strategies. They're rejecting delegation. They're rejecting growing their business because they're so deeply afraid of being betrayed by someone they trust. Yeah. And so I'm really excited to get deeper into this, because what if simply someone could listen to today, maybe even get your book or go deeper into the work and have an awareness that they heal this betrayal. Mm-hmm. They become aware it's a betrayal and they learn how to navigate it differently. And now they're open to the possibilities of growing their impact, growing their revenue, growing their happiness in their business, simply because today they recognized why they were stuck.
And you know what I love about what you just said? This is not just like possibility or hope. Like, this is research backed. And this is what happens when someone moves through. That was the third discovery, that there are these 5 proven, predictable stages. And what's even more exciting about that is we even know now what happens physically, mentally, and emotionally at every stage. And we know what it takes to move from one stage to the next. Healing is entirely predictable. And what you're talking about, that's so stage 3. And that's where most people get stuck. And I'm happy to share the stages.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay. Because everybody will know exactly where they are. But what's so great is that there's a language to each stage. And the beauty is, if that coach or practitioner hears a certain phrase, they're like, oh, that's stage 3. This is what they need. That's stage 2. They're not ready for this. You see? So it's all about what stage they're in. Okay. So stage 1, this is actually before it happens. And if you can imagine 4 legs of a table, the 4 legs being physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. What I saw with everybody, me too, was a heavy lean on the physical and mental thinking and doing. Like, think of all the business owners, that's what they use. That's the tool for the job that they're using, right? And the feeling and being is sort of turned down. And when it comes to betrayal, here's the thing too. Sometimes it's intentionally turned down. And I don't want anybody to be upset with themselves if this is what they do. They turn it down because if they really pay attention to what their intuition is so subtly saying, it's going to cause such a shakeup to what's been created. And maybe they didn't have the mental, the emotional, the financial bandwidth to take that on. So they intentionally turn that down. I see this all the time. But anyway, it's sort of the autopilot stage. No one's fault. You're not scanning for deception when you think you're in a healthy relationship with that partner, that business partner, that coworker, right? Stage 2, shock, trauma, D-Day, discovery day. This is the scariest of all the stages. And it's the breakdown of the body, the mind, the worldview. So right here, you've gotten the news. Everybody remembers their D-Day, right? Your world is compartmentalized into 2 camps, before and after it happened. You've had that psychological earthquake. You've ignited the stress response. You're now headed for every single stress-related symptom, illness, condition, disease, right? And your worldview is totally shattered. Your worldview is your mental model, like the rules that govern you, that prevent chaos. Trust this person. These are the rules. And in one earth-shattering moment, that's all gone. The bottom has bottomed out on you, and the new bottom hasn't been formed yet. It's terrifying. But think about it. If the bottom were to bottom out on you, what would you do? You grab hold of anything or anyone, right? In order to stay safe and stay alive. That's stage 3. Survival instincts emerge. This is the most practical of all the stages. If you can't help me, get out of my way. How do I survive this? Here's the trap, though. This is the stage the majority of people get stuck in. And here's why. Once we've figured out how to survive our experience, because it feels so much better than the shock and trauma, right? We think it's good. And the truth is, it's infinitely better than where we were. We're functioning, we're doing the things, but it's flat. There's a flatness to it. Yes, we're keeping out the bad ones, but we're keeping out the good ones too. Yeah, we're surviving, but we're not thriving. And then we get reinforcement from people too. Oh, you're doing so great. So we're like, okay, this must be as good as it gets. But four things are going on right here. You start getting all those small self benefits. You get your story. We love our story. Like how many people do you know they share their story? It is so well rehearsed.
Oh, yeah.
They've said it in that certain way 1,000 times.
Yep.
Yeah. You get to be right. You get sympathy, right? So you get all these sort of small self benefits. So now you're here longer than you should be. Now the mind starts doing things like, maybe you're not that great. Maybe they're right. Maybe this, maybe that. So we plant deeper roots. And now because these are the thoughts we're thinking, well, this is the energy we start putting out. Like energy attracts like energy. And so now we're attracting people and circumstances and even new relationships. Here's the repeat betrayal. To confirm this is where we belong. Here's where we join that lame support group. And someone's like thinking they're going to get, like they found their people. And then that, in the group, they're like, oh, you think that's bad? Well, this happened to me. This happened to me. And now it's like an in it awful club. Here's where we go to, again, well-meaning, well-intentioned therapists. And you feel heard and validated, understood. And you're like, why am I not? I'm feeling good when I'm sharing. And then that's it. Right. Here's also, it gets worse, but I'll get you out of here. Because it feels so bad, but we don't know there's anywhere else to go. Right here, we start numbing, avoiding, distracting. So now we start using food, drugs, alcohol, and we do it for a day, a week, a month. Now it's a habit, a year, 10 years, 20 years. Melanie, I could see someone 20 years later and say, that emotional eating you're doing or that drinking, do you think that has anything to do with your betrayal? And they'd look at me like I'm crazy. They said it happened 20 years ago. All they did was put themselves in stage 3. Does that make sense?
Yeah, they're stuck in stage 3.
They're living a stage 3 life. And here's where they're medicating and suppressing symptoms of post-betrayal syndrome. Nothing has really changed. So nothing has really changed. They're sick. They're sad. They're stuck. They're not happy in their, in their work, in their health, in their relationships. They're in stage 3 when they're like, I'm fine. And the truth is they're fine, but they're not transformed. And this is why most people land there. Anyway, can I get you out of stage 3?
Yeah, let's move on. That's triggering some old memories for me.
Yeah. So if you're willing is such a big word right here. If you're willing to let go of the story, grieve, mourn the loss, bunch of things you need to do, you move to stage 4. Stage 4 is finding and adjusting to a new normal. So here's where you acknowledge, I can't undo what happened, but I control what I do with it. Just in that decision, you're turning down the stress response. You're not healing just yet, but at least you stopped the massive damage that was going on in stages 2 and stage 3. Stage 4 feels like if you ever moved to a new house, office, condo, apartment, whatever, your stuff's not there, it's not quite cozy yet, but it's like, we got this. Yeah. It's this hopeful excitement. That's what it feels like. And what I found was there's this one spot as people go from stage 3 to stage 4. If your friends weren't there for you, they're not coming along. That support group, you're done. The therapist who well-meaning, well-intentioned, but you're stuck, you're done. And people say all the time, is it me? Yes, it is. You're undergoing a transformation. And if they don't rise, they don't come along. When we've settled into this space, made it cozy, made it home, we move into the 5th, most beautiful stage. And this is healing, rebirth, and a new worldview. The body is healing, self-love, self-care, eating well, stuff like that. We couldn't do that earlier. Now we can. The mind is healing. We're making all kinds of new rules, new boundaries, and we have a whole new worldview based on everything we see. And the 4 legs of that table, in the beginning, it was all about the physical and mental. By this point, we're so solidly grounded because we're focused on the emotional and the spiritual too. Those are the 5 stages.
I love that. I know there's more depth to it that people are probably going to want to dig into, but just understanding that flow feels so possibility invoking, right? And I was just thinking about how, like, the word sovereignty just kept coming up as you were speaking about stage 5, and to recognize that there is a place where we can reclaim our sovereignty. That's where so much possibility emerges.
I see people moving into stages 4 and 5, the strength, the confidence, the self-love, the health, the new passion projects, the new businesses, the new relationships, either with the person who hurt them in a very different way or with someone new. And it's all because it's earned. You earn that. And just even going through all of that experience to get to that point of self-love and self-confidence. Now think about how that's going to impact your business. Look at who you're bringing to work with you every day now. It's a game changer.
Well, and I love that you're bringing it back to that place, because one of the things I do a lot is with my clients is, we're talking about being more visible. When
Mhm.
your heaviness, when you're in those stages 1, 2, 3, and probably 4 to some degree, you're not feeling especially like vibrant. Like, do you want to put yourself out there? And sometimes we have to look back at, like, what are the anchors that are holding us back? What is causing us to want to stay small? What is causing us to maybe dilute our message for safety, right? And I think what you're bringing to us is this really powerful awareness, is that there can be some anchors that we don't even recognize what the root of them is, but we need to address them, resolve them, and stand in our truth from a place of, not even about thriving, but I guess that sovereignty again comes to
Yeah.
mind.
I was sharing with you before we spoke that I spoke just at a conference, and there were thousands of people there, and not that many came, and not all the thousands came into my session. But I was talking about how an unhealed betrayal is one of the biggest predictors of personal and professional success.
Mm.
And we don't look at it like that. We look at it like, I'm going to do whatever it is to give me the edge in my business, mindset work and leadership skills and all of that. And that's all wonderful. But if your ability to feel safe, if your ability to trust, if your confidence, if they've been shattered, none of those tools are landing, because underneath it, there's going to be such a sense of imposter syndrome. You may be talking a big game, but the version of you that gets to be created when you truly move through all of this, then all that stuff complements who you've become. But
Yeah.
without it's not the same.
Well, and as we know, some of the most profound and powerful leaders in our time are people who have experienced deep wounding of some kind and integrated it, transformed it, healed it, and then, used it as part of their tools in their toolbox. And I think betrayal can be one of those tools that, or yeah, I guess it could become a tool, It's like it gives you a new awareness, it gives you new perspectives, and it gives you, the healing is going to reveal what you need to know about you, which I'm sure that's part of your process.
Oh, it's huge. It's so huge. And it's so nice because you get to intentionally and deliberately create a version of yourself that otherwise wouldn't have been able to be created. That's trauma
Mm.
well served. Like, here's such a silly little example, but you'll see how this plays out. So I used to be, before my betrayal, I was so hard on myself. I mean, I was always so hardworking and like such a driver. And then after my betrayal, I'm like, I'm kind of done with that. Like, I don't want to be like that anymore. I wouldn't have a friend in the world if I spoke to a friend the way I speak with myself. So I decided that, like, for example, I get lost wherever I go. I just do. So, I used to call myself names and all these things. And I decided I'm going to still continue to do those things, but now they're adorable. And everyone has to go along with it too. So I'm going to continue to do those things, but instead of calling myself names, I'm simply adorable. And I just love that. That's part of the rebuild. You decide, you take all the parts you love, and you're like, you know what? That's not coming along. And you really get to create this beautiful new version that's so intentional.
Yeah. I don't know if you connected the dots, but when we were talking earlier, I said how much I adore you, and then you just said that was one of your nicknames for yourself. I was like, did she see that in my brain somehow? And for you as you're listening in, I want to pull back to something Dr. Debbie said a few minutes ago, and that is, you get to. I want you to write that down, because I think sometimes, when you're betrayed, it's very easy to fall into the victim energy, which there is a victimization that often has occurred in that. And we get to choose how we move through it.
It's so powerful that you said that. And I agree so wholeheartedly. And I'm going to just drill this in even more, because here's the thing. When we stay stuck, look at the additional power we're giving to that person who betrayed us. And here's the thing, as I said, we could be stuck for decades. So now imagine this. Imagine a parent who did something awful when you were a kid, a partner who broke your heart in high school. That person may not know, care, remember. They may not even be alive. And can you imagine, here we are decades later because of something left unhealed? We deserve so much better than that. And it's, I guess I've trained myself over the years where I see two paths. There's the shoulda, coulda, woulda, and there's the what if I try and I fail. And I have made it. I don't know how I did this, but I have made it that the shoulda, coulda, woulda has become so intolerable. It's like not even an option. It's not. And so the trying and failing is like, okay, this is going to be awkward and uncomfortable, but here we go. you know? And I think it really served, because after betrayal, like, yeah, you have your story, but that's it. Look at the possibility if you move through the stages.
I love this conversation so much. And just for full disclosure, friends, I was stuck in my victim's story in my work betrayal for a long enough time that I was like, okay, hold on. So, I mean, we're not immune to it, but the key is, again, like, choose. Debi, I know one of the things we can explore, and I just want to take a couple minutes to go deeper into this, because we're going a little long today because this is so good. But how does someone maybe recognize that they're stuck in a betrayal energy that's causing them to lose possibility in their business or maybe even their life overall?
Yeah. Well, first of all, now that I went through the stages, if you recognize yourself in one of those stages, if you're settling for fine, take a look at that. Take a look at that. And, I'll show you how an unhealed betrayal shows up in health, work, relationships. So you'll know this is a stage 3 thing if this is what's going on. In relationships, you're going to see it in one of two ways. Number one, repeat betrayal, which we talked about. The faces change, but it's the same thing. The other way is the big wall goes up. We're keeping out the bad ones, but we're keeping out the good ones too. 67% of everyone betrayed does that, right? That's not healed. That's hardened. Very different experience. We're going to see it in health. If you're going to the most well-meaning, amazing coaches, healers, therapists, to manage a stress-related symptom, illness, condition, disease, take a look. Could it be that there's a betrayal at the root of it? And at work, you want to be a team player, but a collaborative partner. But the person you trusted the most proved untrustworthy. How do you trust that boss, that partner, that, whatever, or that JV partner, or you want that raise or promotion, but your confidence was shattered. So you don't have the confidence to ask, and you're bitter and resentful instead. So you want to see, where is this showing up for me? And you can't change what you're unaware of. So that's the first step.
Thank you. So good. I could add so many things to this, but I'm just gonna let it pause there, because I want to invite people to get your book that's just come on the market. I can't wait to personally. I will fully admit we're doing this early enough that the book isn't even like in my inbox yet. Yep. It's not bought and in my library, but I'm planning to read this along with you, my friend. And so I want to hear, what can people get that goes a little bit deeper in the book?
Oh, and this is my 9th book. I am so excited about Unstuck. This is, it's for practitioners. And the reason why I wrote this is because when there are so many people who've been betrayed and they're not showing up in their businesses the way they could, or their relationships, or for themselves. And these incredible coaches and practitioners don't have the language or don't know how to recognize the stages. So I wrote it so that a coach, a somatic practitioner, a therapist, anybody who really is helping, serving clients can see, oh my gosh, I have been using these great tools, but at the wrong time. And just so they can have such fulfilling transformations, and also from a business perspective too, because so many coaches end the coaching relationship when that client's like, I think I'm good. right? So they're like, all right, who am I to say anything about that? Okay, well, bye. Meanwhile, that's stage 3. They haven't even helped them through the 5 stages the client leaves. Talk about the referrals you get. You get one referral where it's like, oh yeah, Sue helped me. We had some great sessions. But when you move through someone through the 5 stages and they've transformed, now it's like, you need to see Sue. She's as good as it gets. This is the expert in betrayal recovery. So Unstuck is for that practitioner who either doesn't have to specialize in this, but maybe you're a business coach and you want to see just how to help your clients so much more effectively. Because here's the thing, they're coming to you anyway, and not even for a betrayal. But when you know what to look for, they're usually your most resistant clients. And it's because they've been betrayed. They're hesitant to trust. So instead of looking at them or avoiding them, you'll have the language and work with them so much more effectively.
Yeah, I love that you brought that last part in, because sometimes we misdiagnose what resistance really is, why somebody's stuck.
Yeah.
And the more tools we have as business coaches of when to refer out, or even how to ask the right questions to help somebody identify what's really in the way, it reduces the shame, it reduces the confidence hits that they're having, and it can help get somebody back into motion, but with the right frequency and power, because they actually know why they've been stuck in the first place.
Oh, yeah. And that's why I even wrote the languaging for the coaches to use with these types of clients, because it's certainly not that, number one, the client is coming to you for betrayal. Like perfect example, you're a business coach, someone is coming to you for confidence, right? But when you know a few questions to ask, then you realize, oh my gosh, this person's confidence was shattered 20 years ago in that betrayal. They're in stage 3. And I'm going to know the phrasing and the languaging to gently invite them into stage 4, because now they're going to look at me like, you really know exactly what you're talking about, and they get to transform.
Love it. Well, we started talking about the book, but didn't tell them where to get it, right? So if you look in the show notes, wherever you're listening to today's episode, you'll see how to go and get your copy of Unstuck. And I am so excited to share this work with our community. I would love for you, as you're listening in, if you're relating to this, or you've had clients that have maybe been experiencing this, share the episode. Let's get this work of getting unstuck from betrayal in more hands for Dr. Debi, and for the people who maybe don't even realize why they're stuck, and now they're going to have a tool in their toolbox that they really need. Do you want to add anything to that, Debi?
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much. And as much as it's helping the clients, it's the ripple effect. It's their families, it's their kids, it's the people they work with. When someone is living in a stage 4, stage 5 place, they benefit all within their care and reach. And the people around them are so much better off for it. So just as wonderful as it is for the practitioner, for the client, for the people the client is around and their kids and their families, exponentially better.
I love it. Dr. Debi, thank you for bringing this work to the world. I think you are doing something so extraordinary. I'm so excited to share you with our community. And I also know that we're making a ripple today. So thank you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in today, Amplifier. We're going to keep this conversation going, and I want to hear from you how you're going to amplify your authority and make a greater impact. Before you go, please take a minute to give our show and our guests some love over on your favorite podcasting platform. Subscribe, rate, and review. Leave your full name, and I'll spotlight you and your authority on social media.